You got it, Mournian.
Hi guys, this is Olenko from Olenko's Kitchen or Alexandra. I have a special guest tonight for you all the way from LA, Matthew Mournian. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for
Is,
having me.
is it hot in LA?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's about 90% humidity. You know, the
Okay.
usual
Yeah, kind of like
California
in New
summer.
York. Yeah, in New York. Actually,
Yeah.
today is 70, but it's very humid. But we had like over 100. So, okay,
Mm.
this is gonna be a really great show. We're going to be talking about some really cool things, and I call this interview "Intergalactic Journey of the Soul" because we're gonna be talking about some galactic stuff. We're gonna do some tarot readings, some about some negative entity removal. That's what you specialize, right? And yeah, and some 5D ascension, New Earth, and all these different things. So, can you tell us, Matthew, in the beginning, how did you got into this, spirituality? Were you always
Yeah.
empathic and into those things?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, I was one of those people that began to have somewhat of an awakening experience around 2012, oddly enough. In looking back, I believe that I was having experiences with some sort of extraterrestrial group going all the way back into my early childhood when I discovered the work of Corey Goode and his story about how blue orbs or blue lights would come into his room at night. That was a thing that happened to me quite a bit when I was a child, although I don't recall them taking me anywhere. Fast forward many, many years later, after just a really kind of tumultuous, like early adulthood, around 2012, I had the beginnings of an awakening. At that stage, it was as if right around December, oddly enough as well. It was as if something was kind of cracking open in my life, in my energy field, in my body. Something was about to burst, and oddly enough, at that time in 2012, I actually decided to go on medication, and I went on antidepressant meds for the next couple of years until 2015 when that event happened again. And at this point, it hit me full force. And to be quite honest, my life was never the same after that. I had what I believe to be, or at least what I understand now, as a really wild fast forward, to have. I had some sort of a walk-in event, or what we call a soul braiding activation, in which what I now understand to be a future version of Matthew began to integrate with the 3D Matthew that was here in this body. And for me, that process began around 2015 with just these really crazy, intense activations, visitations. I began to have dreams in which I was literally being trained and taught certain scripts and how to do things with energy. It was a really wild period of my life, and that culminated with an event in 2016 in which I met a group of people at a secret space program conference, and a man there by the name of Eric Rains
Mm-hmm.
moved a piece of energy in my body. He removed what I understand to be some form of implantation or energetic blockage in my heart center. And quite literally after that, I was never the same after that. And so in the years since, what happened for me is I literally devoted, my whole life really to kind of learning and understanding, what's happening in our energy bodies, what it means to be a multi-dimensional being, how to move chi through the body, how to awaken our intuitive senses, how we can use that to heal ourselves. And all of those things became quite literally my obsession, my focus. And I'm just, about 2.5 years into that process, kind of like you mentioned, right, as we started this, how you'd had a background in a whole other industry. I quite literally walked away from my previous job, like my career, the home that I owned, the marriage that I had. I literally put my things on the curb and I kind of drove off into this whole new version of myself. And that's really the super, super
Mm-hmm.
short version of it. But for me, it was literally a sudden activation. And, the results of that process caused my entire health to change, my body to change, my energy to change, my career to change. Every single thing about my entire life was transformed. And so, here we are about 3 years later in 2019, and I'm just trying to carry this work forward. So I think I just dumped a big bucket load info on you, but yeah, that's the short version. So
That's great. And yeah, Eric's energy healing and entity removal is really cool. I had a pleasure meeting him in person in January, but I knew of his work before. Yeah, so it's he's a really really awesome guy. Yeah, you have a great website. What's your website for those who wanna check
yes,
out
it's
different?
rememberyourmission.com.
I
Remember
like
your mission.
I like the title. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
and then your story. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are going through this right now too. Like they're walking away from marriages, relationships, jobs, moving. You know, like across the world. And yeah, it's like sometimes like a big like big things because like something is calling you. So that's really cool that you had a that you were that you had the courage to do this, because I think some people are still like a little bit afraid, living in
Oh,
this 3D
absolutely.
matrix, like how am I going to support myself, or what am I going to do with the family, so that's
Oh,
awesome that you're following your mission, your soul's
oh,
mission.
absolutely. Well, oddly enough, in the midst of this whole process was when I began to experience what I now understand to be, and I know you've had some other people on your show talking about this sort of thing, so this won't be too weird for you. But what I began to have happen around late 2016 was a series of visitations, or what I call telepathic conferencing, with what I now understand to be quite literally a group of multi-dimensional beings who chose to allow their consciousness to interface with mine for the purpose of representing me, this version of Matthew here in the physical body in this life. And so what I think will happen for a lot of us in the future is that we will understand that the higher self, or what we call the higher self complex, is quite literally, for a lot of us, a group of beings who chose to incarnate as this one singular third dimensional person in this body. And so for me, around 2016, the reason why I called this website Remember Your Mission was because there was a series of events in which I would literally stand in my backyard and do qigong for hours a day. I was so like confused and like bewildered. I didn't know what was happening in my body. All this weird energy was coming out of me, and I would have these conversations. These beings would like come to me, and they explained that I literally had a mission. They explained that I had chosen this sort of point in my life in which I had been given a choice, and if I chose to change everything, make a bold move to walk away from the previous version of Matthew, that everything would change. The sole reason for that being was that I had made a choice prior to incarnating, coming into this body, that I would be faced with that, that calling if I chose to, take advantage of it. So I think in my case, what I call that is, mission stage activation. And I think for those of us that identify as star seeds, or are coming through this great awakening, or at the very least coming to an understanding of the higher multi-dimensional nature of our lives right now, that you will quite literally, for a lot of us, have a mission. You will have a calling. You will have your highest good, a thing that you came here to do, your most optimal timeline. And so I might be rambling at you a little bit, but for me, that was what that process was. It was stepping into this whole other version of Matthew, and I'd like to think that I'm kind of like running with that now, and
No,
really go for it. So yeah.
that's great. And I know, as I said, like a lot of people who going through that. I'm kind of going through that myself. It's so funny. I started watching like the old X-Files on Netflix, like from
Oh, yeah.
19, I don't know, whether they started 83 or something. And it's like I'm watching this, and I've watched it, like I was in Poland back then, like in the beginning, and it was like, it was so cool. But now I'm like, I feel like, wow, this is like a documentary. It's like all these they have all these different episodes with different people, those X-Files doing crazy things. And I'm like,
Oh,
wow, it's
totally.
like, this is not like a secret anymore. Like people already doing this. It's like we like, I feel like the times are like, everything is changing so fast with the technology and the information, which is a lot of current events, like in the last few weeks, is really like awakening people up. So yeah, so it's very very interesting. So you work, I'm really interested because in one of your videos you were talking about Chinese meridians, like the gallbladder, the kidney, and how is that connected to our energy, and how we
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
kind of the energy from others, uh, we can like absorb, or sometimes they can even like send us, I'm not gonna say like, I guess in Italian people say like an evil eye sometimes by a coincidence, like sometimes they don't mean it, but or even you see a post or something and like you may have this like little like jealous of someone, like, and because we're changing into crystalline 5D body, like how is this related to like your work and the negative entity removal, like when you work with clients? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's very interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that I had a really wild crash course into kind of what I understand, or what I now call negative energetic manifestations. And that probably, like you and a lot of the people that watch this, and the vast majority of us at this stage, I came into this world as a very empathic being, meaning that just inherently, as we just feel other people's energy, we feel their emotions, we feel what's coming out of them. And so your body's a bit of, it's a bit of a magnet for that. And so I had a really wild crash course into kind of understanding the nature of negative energetic manifestations. And by my understanding, for the majority of my life, I was completely unshielded and subject to everyone's emotions and energies and feelings and rage and frustration. And so I had to live through literally the first, I would say, 38 years of my life, understanding what was mine, literally what belonged to Matthew and what belonged to you. And so, when we talk about the phenomenon of, negative energy, how it interacts with our body, and maybe even what negative energy is, because this is a term that we're all talking about, like negativity, negative energy. It's a very easily misunderstood thing, but for all intents and purposes, what we're talking about is dead or miasmatic energy, something that is not of the light, something that is dead, it's blocked, it's no longer moving, it's stuck, a blockage thing. And so for a lot of us right now, we're literally kind of walking around transmitting, our unresolved traumas, the rage that we're picking up from other people, our expectations, our insecurities, and especially in this social media environment where everyone can literally just rattle off any statement on the keyboard, it becomes a really, really easy way for anything outside of you to interact with whatever that trauma frequency is inside you and cause you to either literally receive or attract or send this really, really wildly polarizing negative frequency. And for a lot of people, that tends to come in a number of, kind of specific ways right now, or at least the clients that I'm working with that are, usually suffering from some form of energetic blockage tend to have, racing thoughts, an inability to focus, a tendency to play these negative scenarios over and over in their minds in this wild running loop fashion. It tends to happen in weird times in which they encounter something that'll trigger an old wound in their body, or they'll be right about to make a big move or a big change or a big sort of jump in their life, and they'll suddenly have this onset of this cyclical running loop of negativity. And so how that ties into like chakras or like a meridian is that what I discovered in my work very early on, and this was literally just through just kind of experimenting and trying to understand what was happening with me, was that I began to figure out that there were these pathways. Before I even knew what a meridian was, I would kind of hold my hand over my body and feel these areas in which there were these lines or these streams. And I began to educate myself about that. And I began to understand that there's quite literally these invisible pathways of energy running through our body. And so when I began to understand the way chi, our vital energy, moves and interact with our body and our blood, our circulatory systems, you begin to see that there are areas in which things would block up on the body. And so when we talk about this wild running loop, it's oftentimes an interaction on the upper chakras in specific key areas on the body. And so the bulk of my work right now is, understanding where those energies are blocked, understanding what they are, not necessarily always where they come from, but understanding what it is that we need to do to remove that blockage. And I will say this, and I'll kind of pause, I know I'm going on a tangent here. The primary source for nearly any and all negative energetic manifestations in the body, whether that be an implantation, an entity attachment, or whatever it is, will almost always be born from some element of trauma within us. So hopefully some of that stuff makes sense to you, but the meridians are a trip, and yeah.
So when you work, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I actually, I like this, how you relate to the meridians, because I've been like going for acupuncture, like traditional Chinese acupuncture for many years. It helped me a lot with many different things, with allergies, and it's like when they placed, if for those the viewers, if you never had acupuncture, they, and this is like ancient, thousands of years old tradition, you know, they place the needles, and it's, again, it's the energy, the flow of the chi. And when you work with energy, like you don't actually place the needles, or sometimes they can do gua sha and then they do cuppings. It could be different ways how they do it in the traditional Chinese medicine, but it's all about like the, you know, the removing the flow, the correcting the flow, and they can use herbs to, you know, all these different things. But so you doing more like intuitively, like when you work with the client, like what you like a kind of like a medium, like in, like you see their body and like the energy, like how do you, because when you work with clients it's on the internet most of the time, yes?
Oh yes, I would say 99% of all the people I see are going to be over Zoom or Skype or really on the phone, because the reality is you actually don't need a voice-like connection to do energy work. Even sort of Einstein came to, you know, this like conclusion that they called spooky action at a distance, or the phenomenon of the quantum entanglement, in which two particles at any distance apart will, you know, inevitably affect each other. No matter what, we are all like connected on some level. So the way I do my work right now, is as long as we have a voice like connection, we can like connect over the phone. I have a 3-part process, which for some people might be kind of a strange idea, but it's a multi-layered kind of what I call an energetically integrated process, by which, number one, in my sessions, we usually start out with a bit of an energy reading, and that tends to come in the form of like tarot. That'll be an energy body reading. We just kind of talk about what's happening in your life, where you're going, what's happening. From that, we take into, you know, an official kind of what I call a higher self-conferencing, or possibly spirit guide consultation, like depending on what kind of label you put on it. But that's where we tend to use tarot, and we look at kind of elements of your energy body specifically. We ask about your chakras, we ask about your meridians. So it's a combination of those two methods. And then from there, we go into what I call this sort of focused state. And by my understanding, in kind of ancient times like Lemuria or Atlantis, one of the ways in which we went about healing each other was by creating a sealed energetic field, or like a container in which you and that other person are interacting and sharing energy entirely. But my understanding, this is also one of the foundational experiences of what they would, you know, be doing in, you know, say an advanced society like the inner earth or on other worlds, in which two bodies are kind of interfacing. So what I do is we go through a bit of a hypnotic induction, or what's quite literally a bit of like a meditation, in which we bring the body and the brain down to about a theta, or sometimes a delta state. What happens when you go down to this sort of ultra relaxed state is that, you know, the version of you that's here tends to kind of slide down and get a little bit sleepy, and anything that's not you, things that tend to hang out in our chakras, in our auric field, around the body, within the meridians, especially things that affect our mental processes, they tend to rise up on the surface of the energy body, not unlike a buoy rises on the surface of the water, and they'll sort of bob there. And so by my understanding and experience, if you're knowledgeable and able to tap into those energies, you can then utilize chi, some form of energy, the person's own energetic like connection that you're sharing with them. But more specifically, the way that I do it is what I call a human scalar wave frequency. And to be very specific about that, what that is quite literally a tone. It's a tone that I create, or sometimes me and the client will do this like together. But there's a number of things that happen in that. Not only are you creating an intention for healing, you're visualizing a place in the body with knowledge of a meridian or a chakra or maybe an organ. You're also sending an emotion. You're sending a frequency. You're also sending a color. But most importantly, you wrap it up in a vibratory tone. And so for the people that have done sessions with me, they'll hear this. It's quite literally a tone that we create that's like, and that's not only is that an ancient healing tool, but that's one of the ways in which our body can expand on a multi-dimensional level, because it kind of concentrates that energy in one. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
but,
that's awesome. So yeah, for those who are I know a lot of you, this is why I do these interviews, because yes, I'm all about food and like healthy food, and for those who know me personally, you've tried my food or you got the books, like, yeah, your food is so yummy. But when it comes to healing, it's many different levels. Like sometimes it has to be physical, emotional, spiritual, intergalactic, there's many different levels. And I know for some of you, like, you're trying to heal and like you're trying different modalities and maybe things don't work. So maybe this sounds maybe weird to you, but maybe this is it. You know, maybe a session with Matthew will actually help you, you know, like heal whatever you're dealing with. So I think like lately a lot of people are more open to those kind of strange things. Yes, I mean for me the stuff that you're talking about is not strange, but
Right.
you know, but yeah, it's very fascinating. I've done hypnosis lately with my friend Jason with for allergies, and it really works. So like yeah, it's like when you're putting you know your brain into different, you know, like the waves, and yeah, the sound healing is amazing. It's like you're working on different vibrations, yes, and different, you're kind of like going on different dimensions, and then you can heal very
Oh yeah.
quickly, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's literally, quite literally, why we call it multi-dimensional healing, because as I know you are totally aware, we're living in this time of this incredible dimensional shift, and so there's this wide array, this myriad of frequencies available to each and every one of us right now. So, you know, when we engage in these, you know, forms of healing right now, it's not only are we healing the mind body spirit complex, but we're also awakening and activating those ancient versions of ourselves. And in, you know, like the time of ascension, we quite literally have access to every version of you that has ever existed. So yeah, it's a very potent thing.
Very cool. And I want to ask you, so when people want to awaken this like their own psychic abilities, maybe they're already empath, do you recommend, like, are you on some kind of, you know, you said you started like in 2012, are you on a certain diet or detox, or are you doing certain kind of, you said you did like you do like a variety of different things to help you? How do you protect your energy? Because, you know, sometimes when you, that's another question, I'm like asking a second question, when you're dealing with different entities, like, so they don't attach to you, and like, how do you deal with this? So one for the viewers and one for you.
That's a really good question. Thank you. I would say the first thing that you could do to kind of start with that, for those people that are, who are interested, willing, or trying to understand how to unlock or kind of step into their intuitive or multi-dimensional abilities, one of the first things we can do is detox our body from heavy metals. I mean, really, truly detox the body from weaponized food and heavy metals. So for me, I think that I had a lot of like physical blockage, a lot of liver toxicity back in the day, and I really had to go through a really big detox, and that was one of the things that transformed my body. So in terms of dietary stuff, I think there's going to be something that's, you know, appropriate for each and every person. That's probably more, you know, like your area, but just reducing and eliminating heavy metals in any form out of our body right now. And not all heavy metals, you know, that's not exactly what we're saying, but in terms of the stuff that we're getting on an environmental basis, that's one of the greatest blockages toward developing and activating higher consciousness. So, you know, heavy metal detox. But for me, you know, the way that I kind of shield and protect myself from negative energy at this stage is primarily by keeping really good watch and check on my own wounds, my own core wounds, Matthew's own issues, the things that still make Matthew triggered, the things that I see, and that, you know, we all have them in that, you get that knife in your side and you're like, and you kind of clench up. Because by my experience, you know, about 3 years or so into this game, and I'm very, very new into this, you know, this energetic realm, like a lot of us, I just now got here. I'm just now stepping into this thing. But in the past 3 years, if there's anything that I have discovered that, you know, allows an authorization, creates an opening in our energy body, allows something to affect us in a negative manner, it's almost always, and maybe I should speak by my experience, in my experience, it has almost always been made possible because there's some part of myself that's unhealed that gives it an opportunity to hold on to. Because if there's nothing in the field that allows that weed or that negative thing to grow, it's unable to, you know, it's unable to grab a hold. Just like, you know, the alkaline diet tends to stop and eliminate the growth of cancer cells because there's nothing for it to really feed off of. So when we talk about keeping our energy body clear, you know, there's a couple things that I tell people to do. Obviously the heavy metal detox, but from a behavioral perspective, the thing that literally transformed my body, that helped me literally reverse aging, lose weight, and stop getting sick, was starting to do Qigong and just starting a literal practice of every day beginning to move my energy. That some form of breath work. There's a phenomenon called Wim Hof. There's this process. If you're familiar with that guy, he has an incredible oxygenation thing. Those are things that people can do to begin to not only remove blockages in their chakras, move energy through the meridians, open up the energy flow and tonify their organs, but that kind of hyper-oxygenates and floods the body with energy. And so for me, I use a combination of those things. But at this stage, really, it's all about really healing ourselves. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but...
No, it does. And it's all about, I feel like, you know, when many times, like, if I will work with clients or something, like, yeah, it's like I'm getting the healing too, you know. So it's really
definitely.
interesting. It's like we always, you know, like are a magnet to certain people, and then yeah, sometimes, you know, they trigger us, right? Or like we see ourselves or some similarities. Very interesting. So I know you drink a lot of water, I see, which is amazing. What kind of water do you drink? Because water is so important, you know, for any kind of detox. Yeah. So and
yeah, we have a Berkey water filter. It's just, you know, one of the like the gravity filters that just tries to pull all the glyphosate and, you know, all the fluoride, which, you know, for people who are even still thinking on any level, I mean, the fluoride is literally going to clog up your third eye. For those people that are going around going, you know, first of all, how come I can't open my third eye? That's literally a process that takes time. It's not this sudden explosive thing. And not only that, it's not even really necessarily a sight-based organ. It's an internal thing. But for a lot of us, there's quite literally a blockage. Some people will have a tar-like thing, these black sort of spots that hang out on layers of the energy body. And by my understanding and experience at this point, many times it is quite literally a substance, a chemical, a buildup of a mineral. There's certain clients that I've worked with in which, you know, you'll check in on their energy and literally I'll get a flavor or like a smell of like a pharmaceutical or a taste of metal. And so those are real things that really do lodge in.
Yeah, and for those people, like, you know, who drinking like tap water or like, you know, like, it's like, you know, people go to the bathroom and like urinate, and then you're getting this like medication, you know, like back, and you're drinking this, and God knows what you're taking. I mean, you really like drink good water. I'm drinking distilled water. I don't know if you heard it, but like I love it.
I have in the past. Yeah.
It's like really, I feel like it really opened my pineal gland, and I feel great. I actually like the taste, but I also have like, you know, filter water, and you know, I drink a lot of juices and smoothies, which is like really, you know, really good. But cool. I'm really excited. So can you do some kind of reading? I see there's a lot of people watching. Totally. If anybody has like a question for Matthew, maybe you can ask. But so I don't know how reading, like general reading. How do you what do you think? Do you have in like intuitive insight?
We have a couple options if you want to draw some cards. Usually when I do a live thing, and that's kind of how I've been like connecting with people, is I'll do sort of like a live thing every once in a while. We just kind of demonstrate, you know, the efficacy of what multidimensional tarot is, because what we're doing is we're not necessarily looking at, you know, what's happening in your day-to-day life, although that information is possible. What we're doing is looking at kind of your placement on your timeline, your energetic momentum, based on how you present right now. One of the questions we often ask is, based on how we are right now, what is it that we need to know about where our energy is leading us? So for oftentimes, that's one of the easiest ways to segue into a really quick 1 or 2 card reading. So if you want to do that, we totally can.
Sure.
And cool. And so here's to make it even more interesting, one of the ways for those of you guys that are out there that are watching the show or may see it in the future, or even for you yourself, one of the abilities that we have as we go through this fourth density shift is that we're kind of awakening to the phenomenon of real-time telepathic interfacing. And so one of the ways you can sort of like connect with a person's body is quite literally just take a deep breath in, everything all the way in your body, and what you're doing is you're just kind of working with the higher self. So the way I do it when I start drawing cards for a person like a couple people saw me do this on the video yesterday, is we take a deep breath in, and then we say, you know, I'm working with the guides responsible for the care and management of the mind-body-spirit complex known as, and then we say that person's name. So so what's the name that you go by most commonly? What does everyone call you when they see you?
In America, they call me Alexandra.
Alexandra. Okay, so we're going to address you as Alexandra. Is that okay? And for those of you guys that read tarot at home, this is quite literally one of the methods that you can like connect with the mind, body, spirit complex, that being another person. And where I got that was from the Law of One, in which, you know, I don't know if you're like familiar with the Law of One, but in which Ra literally calls out the mind, body, spirit complex known as. And so when I read that, I took that as being that method by which I was going to call out to another mind, body, spirit complex. So it's just kind of an opening thing that we use. But for those of you assisting with Alexandra. I'm just going to do a quick reading for her today and just understanding what does she need to be made aware of today. July 23rd, 2019, just in understanding her energetic momentum, where she's going and what she's creating in this world. We'll just pull a couple cards for Alexandra. Oh, you have actually really cool stuff. This is cool. So okay, so interesting. Now, because I know a little bit about you, because we talked before this, I know that this is actually a relevant thing. This image might not mean anything to you, and I don't know if anyone can even see this at home, but what this is called is the Ace of Swords, okay? And so when you're asking about how am I doing, where am I going with my energy, what is my energetic like condition right now, what's happening in my life, and we pull something like an ace in tarot, and if you guys can see it, it's a giant sword. And so what that symbolizes for you, and because we're talking about you, is a major opportunity, kind of a nexus point, an opportunistic point in your personal cycle, or what we could even call your timeline, in which you have a distinct opportunity, if you begin to, or maybe you've already started this process, present yourself, communicate yourself, open the throat chakra, open up the channels of communication, how you receive, how you're, you know, transmitting yourself out to the world, all the way down to the expression that you hold on your face. The reason why I say that is because when the aces show up in a reading like this, especially multi-dimensional tarot, they're literally saying, if you're willing to do something bold and different right now, a whole new move, a bold thing, these guys give you an opportunity. So, you know, you can take that with a grain of salt, because we're just describing this in a generalistic, you know, like perspective. But when we ask, okay, what does that have to do with my energy body? What does that have to do with me right now on a day-to-day basis? It tells you more, because it tells you how to awaken that opportunity, how to awaken, say, what those cards hold for you is by expanding the throat chakra. So it tells us what we can work on. It tells us what's happening in our world. It gives us an idea existentially about maybe where you're at. And so for you, maybe you've made some changes in how you're sort of delivering your unique frequency out there to the world. And if you're able to continue to be bold in whatever you're doing, usually the aces, you know, aces tell you you're at an opportunistic point. So I might be rambling at you, but
you're right on. Yeah.
Good, thank you. And so I did pull another card, because, and this is also why I said an opportunity. This is literally why I said an opportunity, because for people that try to understand tarot, they'll pull something like a page and they'll be like, what the hell is a page? What does this even mean? What does a page of cups mean? And so when a page shows up in your reading, it's telling you that you're in a developmental stage in which you have a legitimate, viable, real thing. In this case, it's in the realm of cups, which for you might be like, I don't know what that means, but that's okay. The realm of cups is about existential things, your emotional body, your how you interact in like a relationship, both intimately, both, you know, socially, whatever you fill that sort of vessel inside you with, that's the realm of cups. So it's a bit of an existential kind of big overarching reading for you today, but just from the very start, great opportunity, a legitimate, viable thing. An opportunity if Alexandra makes some sort of a big jump or a bold move. It seems like you have an opportunity. The only thing I would tell you, and maybe you might be like, oh hell, this doesn't make any sense, Matthew, but there was one other card that showed up. This guy here, the Eight of Swords. If you look at this woman, she's kind of tied up and she's blindfolded. What she stands for is a tendency sometimes to overthink things. Overanalyze things. She'll kind of chop something up in her mind to the extent that she doesn't know how to act on it. She just shows up to tell you that if you're overanalyzing something, don't do it. Don't overthink it. You know, and so I don't know if any of that stuff makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually very cool. Wow. I see somebody said, Would love one. Kim Petty said would love one. I don't know if she means that she would love to have a reading.
Oh no, totally. We
Yeah,
can
Kim,
talk
if you
about
want to
it.
have a card pulled, like type something, cause I
Yeah,
don't know if
totally.
she's still watching, but do you know
Okay.
Kim? Cause
Oh
no,
no, I have no idea. Yep.
I don't know this person, but
But thank you for watching. Yeah.
yeah, but thank you for there's a lot of people watching. So this is what you do when you start when somebody comes and oh yeah, she says
Yeah.
yes please. So I guess she wants a card for
No,
her.
totally. Yeah. We can draw a card for again. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, this is literally kind of what I do. And back in summer of 2017, I quite literally left everything behind and I stepped into this work full time. And so yeah,
How
this
you
is
learned the
literally it.
tarot? Like you took a class? Like actually, do you teach
Oh,
people how to
you
do
know what?
this? Do you have like a
That's
course that you teach people if they want to learn?
I do actually.
That's so cool.
In my case, as odd as it sounds, I didn't even know anything about tarot until 2012 when I kind of had that weird event that I talked about in the beginning. And my ex-wife, her grandmother at the time, randomly gave me some tarot cards. And, you know, I had always had this idea that I was either psychic or an empath. I kind of had this feeling in my mind as I was a kid, but I was ashamed about it, so I didn't really do anything with it. But as soon as I picked up tarot cards in 2012, I had a really weird experience in which I started doing readings on myself, and I had no idea what the cards meant. I would pull it out and be like, and I would go online and look up all the meanings and look at books, and I had no idea what it was, but I had an experience very, very early on in which I quite literally forecasted a series of events in my life that were spelling a disaster. They literally said, if you do these events, these things will happen. And I was like, whoa, I really want to do these things. And I did it anyway. And literally every single thing that showed up in my readings ended up occurring. In fact, it was far, far worse. And so,
Wow.
yeah, that was around 2013. And I put it away until about, I would say late 2015. I kind of picked it back up. And ever since then, I had just kind of like chipped away at it until about 2017, in which I experienced a phenomenon that a lot of other people have had right now, in which I quite literally stepped completely away from a previous timeline I was on. And when I did that, what happened was, you know, people started coming into my life. I had a series of events with one teacher in like particular where it was almost as if knowledge was literally downloaded into me. And over the course of a few months, it was as if I began to like remember these themes and these
Wow.
ideas and these pictures. And what I've now understood that to be, and for some of you guys, I'm going on a wild tangent here, but what I now understood that to be is it's like a connection that we will make with a previous version of ourselves in another time, in another realm, on another timeline that will have a vested interest, sometimes even a karmic entanglement with the version of us that are here. And so what will happen is this knowledge will literally download into your body. And you'll have to go through the process of unpacking it and integrating it and using it. But for me, it was a combination of self-taught, a little bit of instruction, and really just a huge activation. So
That's so cool. So this is for you people. If you feel like, I don't know, you a lawyer, a doctor, and you feel like, I don't know, gardening is calling you, or I don't know, tarot cards or something, crystals, like go for it. Yes, try it because you may be surprised, right? That's what happened to
absolutely,
That's,
absolutely. And I think we were going to draw a card for
yeah.
someone.
For
So what
Kim,
was her first name?
Kim.
Cool. All we need to know is her first name. And just so you guys know, a lot of people that will try to do readings will be like, I need your birth date, I need the
Yeah.
birth time, I need your sign, I need this. In my opinion, for those of us that are truly reading energy, we have the ability to reach out and touch anyone's vibratory complex anywhere in the universe across all space and time. So the way I do it is we quite literally say, for those of you working with the mind, body, spirit complex known as Kim. And so we're literally sending out like echolocation, like, you know, like say like a bat does, we're sending out that frequency, that vibratory tone that defines that person. So even if we don't know anything about them, we can pull some cards and say, what does Kim need to be made aware of today? And hopefully she's watching. Maybe she bounced. We have no idea, but we're just gonna pull
No,
a
she's
card
watching.
for Kim.
She responded.
Cool. So we'll do, yeah. So let's pull a card for Kim. And so if there's anything Kim needs to know today, and I'm just going to define what this card means, and Kim can decide if this is real or not. But the Four of Wands shows up at a time in your life in Multidimensional Tarot. It'll be about creating stability. For some people, if you're beginning a new relationship, looking at it from a classical tarot perspective, it can be a courtship. It can be a time in your life in which you're meant to be building stability, reliability. You're meant to keep something good and small, contained in a nice area so that you can build it. Sometimes it'll be difficult for you to step outside of that box that you might have like created around yourself. But the Four of Pentacles is about Four of Wands rather, is about humble starts. Like it's like a beginning, a reliable thing, a courtship period in which you're building a new stage. And I might have just said that multiple times in a row. In my opinion, this is a very good thing to have, Kim, if you're kind of starting a new process. If you're questioning if a thing you're in right now with a person or a job or a scenario is serving you, is it working well? Oftentimes the Four of Wands works really well when these people stay inside this little area. They do really well. Sometimes they have a hard time breaking out of the box that they've created. But this is a reliable place to be. It can get stagnated, but I always like to pull another card. I tell people I'm just going to do one, but there's always an additional layer of information or an influence. It gets weird when you keep going. But just to kind of, hopefully for Kim, maybe just give you a little bit more idea about, what this weird guy's talking about. You also have the Three of Pentacles. And so the Three of Pentacles, you guys, in Multidimensional Tarot, the Three of Pentacles talks about upgrades, kind of stepping into the, that next indicated placement, beginning to see the results of work that you're doing. So when I see things like this, Kim, these are good things to have, because not only are you building something that could be reliable and stable for your future, you might need to contain yourself or the process, whatever your experience is, but the Three of Pentacles is quite literally an upgrade of sorts. And so, we're approaching that in an ultra generalistic way. She might be like, what? That's got nothing to do with my life. And maybe it doesn't, but we're just kind of like defining the cards and the energy of the moment. So I hope that helps, Kim.
That's awesome. There's another person, Vicki. I don't know if she wants a card because it says Vicki, but I'm not sure. Hold on. Sometimes Facebook is delayed with the comment. Denise says, shall we do one more? Denise says, can you draw a card for me?
Yes. We certainly can. So what was the first name?
Denise.
Denise, yeah, totally.
You don't need last name, yes?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, sometimes it can help, like if people want to do their last names, but honestly, every single time I do these readings, literally every day, I'm just going, okay, I just need your first name. We're checking in on that energy. And, it's all about intention. I mean, like the reality is at this stage, as we're moving through this like great shift, the energy of our intention, the energy of our thoughts, it's so incredibly potent right now. The veil that we all talk about, and I know you're aware of this, but that veil, like between us and the spirit realm right now is thinner than it has ever been. For a lot of us right now, this is like the most polarized and highly charged energetic lifetime that many of us have had. So we're treading and breaking new ground. We have incredible access to intuitive information. But yeah, and I'm sorry, what was that name again? Was that
Denise?
Her name? Denise, thank you. All right, for those of you assisting with Mind Body Spirit Complex, name is Denise. We're just gonna pull a card for Denise. What does she need to know today? What's going on with Denise? Gosh, you have really positive cards, Denise. Sometimes I pull cards and I'm like, damn, how am I gonna describe this situation? But no, she has really incredible cards. Your primary representative in the energy of the moment. And just so you know, a lot of people, they do tarot readings, they have these like elaborate spreads, and they have to have this like whole layout, and the cards are in all these different ways, and some of them are turned upside down and all this business. And that's a totally viable and absolutely legitimate way to read cards. But in my opinion, there's a number of ways we can do it. And so I encourage people to quite literally find your own way. And so we're asking about Denise, and she's got a chariot. The chariot's a little bit about finding your own way, but what it's really about, Denise, is incredible capability, manifestation. I feel cheesy because I literally say this phrase all the time, but the chariot, you guys, in tarot is the universe giving you the keys to like a Ferrari, and they're like, here you go, buddy, take it wherever you want. For most people, that would be a really cool thing, right? The chariot can be a really cool thing if you know what you're creating, if you know what you want to do in this world, if you know what you want to manifest. It's a really fast ride there. But we look closer, and hopefully this isn't ultra blurry on your screen. I might be jamming.
You can move it to your left.
Hopefully you can see this, because what happens with the chariot is people might not necessarily be driving. The horses aren't necessarily pointed in the same direction. The chariot asks us, who's in control? What do we want? Where are we going? If you know those things, Denise, the chariot's a very, very capable thing to have. To add to why I said your cards are incredibly positive, is you also have a Six of Wands. The times in your life when you're saying, is this a good move? Should I go here? Should I do this? Is this the right step? Is the universe cheering me on? Are my guides, you know, are they saying yes to this decision? And you get something like the Six of Wands, you guys, if you look what's happening. He's literally, you know, he's like in a parade, he's on a horse, they're going somewhere. This is a go-ahead indicator. Very, very positive thing to have, not explosively positive, but the Chariot can be pretty explosive if you know where you're going. So for Denise, this is a really powerful time. If you are able to take direct control over where you're going and what you're doing, you can probably make anything happen. Yeah, that could be a really, you know, that's a big statement. But anyway.
Awesome. Kim said the previous person totally makes sense. Thank you. So Vicki was the other person. She says, can you please pull a card for me? So this will be the maybe the one more. Yeah, I can tell you really love, you know, the cards. This is so awesome. So you started. So do you teach? Do you have a course? If people like me, I don't know much. So where can I sign up to learn how to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do. So I did the first Multidimensional Tarot course ever in March of this year, and it sold out. It was completely full. It was an incredible opportunity. And so we're doing another one in September, I believe. Cool. And so what this is a 2-week course. And by a 2-week course, what I mean is we meet on 2 Sundays in a row. It's September 14th and 21st. And the reason why we do this on 2 Sundays is because over the course of this tarot class, it's not only about kind of learning tarot cards, because honestly anybody can do that. Anybody can do this online for free. You can learn tarot by yourself for free. But what we're doing is we're using it in a different way. We're using it to look at our energy bodies, not only look at our emotions, our motivations, what's happening, but to look at our energy bodies, our chakras, our meridians, understanding what's happening with this, you know, shift and this 4th density, 5th density thing that's happening in our bodies, understanding where we are at in our timeline. And so the reason why we do this 2 weeks in a row is because there's actually a bit of a meditation and an energetic sort of transmission that occurs. So what happens is we do week 1, we talk about chakras, certain things, we talk about cards, and then there's a break. It's like an incubation period in which everyone, you know, hangs out for a week. You do some readings at home on your own. During the week, we'll be pulling cards, and I have a Facebook group where people can kind of go through this process, and we'll sort of check in throughout the week and see how people are doing. And then on the second week, which is I guess that will be September 21st, we do the next session in which we talk more about other structures in the body, what the cards mean, more specifically about how to do a reading, and then we'll demonstrate and give everyone kind of a real quick what I call the mind-body-spirit complex reading, which is ultra simple. It's nothing new, but what it does is when you approach it from a different perspective with a different intention, it gives you a little bit of a view into what's happening with you. So yeah, absolutely, that's totally a class.
Cool. So when people want to sign up, what's your website? But there is a specific link to this.
Right. Yeah, there is. You can literally sign up for it right now. That's on rememberyourmission.com, and you can click on the events thing and scroll down a little bit. It says Multidimensional Tarot, an energy reading workshop version 2.0 or some strange thing like
and
that.
And this is online. You don't have to come in person to LA just to make it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this is all over Zoom, which is literally the best way to do classes, because you can sit at home and you can, you know, you can do whatever you want, and you get a video recording if you want to listen to it. But that said, I don't want to forget your other person.
Vicki.
Vicki. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Vicki, for hanging out. Hopefully you're still here. And for those of you assisting with the Mind Body Spirit Complex, knows Vicki. We're just trying to understand anything Vicki needs to be made aware of today. July 23rd, 2019, just whatever's happening in her world. What does Vicki need to know? What's going on? I will say, your viewers, people that are hanging out here today, some of you guys have some really good cards. In fact, I would say for Vicki, this might be a super big can of worms I'm about to drop on you, Vicki, but you have an ace with the Ace of Pentacles. You had this, Alexandra, a few minutes ago when I was like, you know, you have this opportunity. If you do something bold or different, step out of the box, create a whole new, you know, whatever it is. The aces show up at those intersection points in your cycle or on your timeline in which, Vicki, if you're able to take a bold new move with respect to how you're manifesting things in your life. Now, pentacles, you might be like, well, what the hell does this pentacle even mean? This is the currency of your desire, what you want, what you're creating. In old school tarot, pentacles are about money, physical things, stuff we need. For you, Vicki, that could quite literally be what, you know, what this is. But what it really is from a multidimensional perspective is an opportunity to manifest something incredible. But you have to really change the methods by which you're creating something. And so it just asks you to check in with your processes, the ways in which you're doing it. The reason why I say that is we live in a cyclical kind of realm, and cycles show up to us over and over again. So right now, one of the things that's also happening is we're reliving the same cyclical events that a lot of us had about 20 years ago. Depending upon your age group, where you're at in this ascension process right now, a lot of us are experiencing a complete repeat of the 20-year timeline in which the themes, the issues, the relationships, it'll be different bodies, different cycles, different places, but you'll be, you know, repeating a timeline. And so to just kind of wrap up on Vicki, I think you are repeating a bit of a timeline. It's time for you to do it differently. You do also have a King of Wands. King of Wands is a very, very interesting individual if he knows what he wants, if he knows where he's going. I don't know if you guys can even see this on your screens, but he's got his hand out. It's an important piece of symbolism for the King of Wands. He might even look a little bit raggedy. If the King of Wands is about to do a new thing in his life, it's important for him to mention that in the realm of tarot, he might be a little bit less experienced. You know, the wands have to be physically involved, physically at play in a thing. And so when the King of Wands shows up, he's might be needing a new mission, a new calling, a new passion. It might be a time in his life where he literally has to put his hand out and be like, I'm ready for what's mine, and I'm going to go straight to it. So he asks you to really check in, you know, with your passions, Vicki, with your drive, where you're going. And for you at this stage, it might be about doing it totally differently. So I might be rambling at you. But,
No, this is awesome. I mean, please type if you know if you're still watching, if this resonates with you. So I have another question. So when we feel this, like sometimes, you know, like psychic attacks, maybe we have like really good days and then like we just, the energy, you know, goes down. I mean, the Schumann resonance lately, it goes, you know, like it's very, very strong for the whole planet, but or something triggers us. Is this like the inner child, like wounded inner child, or how would you say, like, do you ever work with like inner child? And I will tell you something about me as a child in the cars with my Polish grandmother.
Interesting.
Something
Yeah,
very funny, but there's my cat. My cat came to visit one of my cats.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. So I would say to answer that, when we're talking about the phenomenon of negative energetic manifestation, meaning for some people that could be a psychic attack, for some people that can be an energy blockage, whatever it is, it's something that you're experiencing in a negative fashion. Now, by my experience, most of those things that we encounter when we become triggered is our own inherent wounds, whatever your core wounds are. And if you're wondering, you know, where did the core wounds kind of activate and lay in the energy body? What area of the body is that? Where they tend to, not always, they can go really literally anywhere. But for most people, we tend to walk around carrying this big bubble in the middle of our body in our solar plexus. And so for a lot of us right now, as we sort of activate in these fifth and fourth dimensional frequencies are activating, these old things are getting pushed to the surface, as we know. And you know, right now, as I already feel myself segueing away from that, you know, sort of question, a lot of us are having resurgence of core wound activation. So but my understanding, a lot of the stuff that we encounter is what we might discern as an attack is really just us getting triggered and, you know, having some wound come to light that needs healing. But that, I might have totally diverted from your original question.
No, it's good. I call it, you know, I call this T equals T, like, you know, like your or somebody else's trash is your treasure, but I even say like your own trash is your treasure, because I feel like these wounds, the traumas, you know, like for my own healing and dealing with stuff, it's like, you know, when you just want to like be done with it and like really release it, and like then this is like your jewels, like gold or diamonds, because it's like this really shows you like what's your next step is, and it opens this new doors and new possibilities. And without these you know, triggers and, you know, stuff, like where would we be? Just like living with unicorns and rainbows, like we wouldn't even be here. Like we chose to be here in this 3D on this planet Earth because it is challenging, but we chose, like, you know, maybe we don't remember, right? But we sign up for this mission, right? That's my opinion and understanding at this stage, and maybe I should, you know, try to stick to my own experience. But
if there's anything I can understand, or what I've learned about Matthew's journey at this point, is that for me, I literally chose to incarnate. I literally chose my body. I know the process of choosing my parents. I don't know much else than that, but I quite literally chose to be born. And by my understanding, I think that's the experience that most of us have. I think that along the course of our incarnational cycles, some people say, we will go through that forgetting process, quote unquote, so many times that the starseed, quote unquote, loses his way, or like the wanderer, quote unquote, as they say in the law of one, loses his way and forgets his purpose, forgets who it is. And I think that there is a process that can possibly happen that some people call like a soul trap. I think that's a thing that has been real, in the past. It might still be a thing, but yeah, people will forget. And I think we come back over and over again faced with the same themes. And at least I know in Matthew's life, I literally chose this. And I also chose some tremendous catalysts for growth. And, for those of you that are wondering what those catalysts for growth that you chose are, those soul contracts, those are the themes, the difficulties, the addictions, the victimizations, the conditions, what we call sometimes the maladies of the star seed that we come in with, those agreements and those weights that we carry. And, I had a lot of those. So I don't know about you. I definitely chose this process.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a lot. I mean, who didn't? I feel like we all did. So Vicki said, yes, my passions are passions. Also, I'm asking for guidance for my highest good. Thank you. I guess this was before the card, but I didn't see it. Sometimes Facebook is delayed. I hope Matthew answered your question. But what I like to ask this to all the people I interview. So what Matthew likes to do for fun, and like when I can tell that you love doing the readings, and like you're really passionate about this the spiritual stuff that you're dealing. But and also question number 2, if you can choose like a person, character from a movie, from a book, from past, from the future, whatever, who would that be, and what would you do if you had like a day and you can go anywhere in the planet Earth, in the space, whatever, like what would you do?
Oh my Lord. Okay. So the first question was,
what do you do for fun? When you want to have a cool...
So that's a really good question. For me, that's a weird challenge because I actually really love what I do, and this is the only thing that I do. But I have had to really kind of allow myself to get more 3D and kind of just do normal people things. So for me, honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I play a lot of video games. That's like the way in which
you should talk to my husband then.
Oh no, yeah, we were, totally, and that's literally a real, so that's how I kind of, still like interact. So there's a lot of video games and that. I'd say physically, really, we walk around Los Angeles literally every day, and we just kind of trip out on like the weird people and the strange frequencies, and just kind of looking at the strange realm. And as odd and probably boring as that sounds, I mean, that's kind of like where I'm at in my life.
Like people watching, it's the best.
It's like, it really is. It's like the simple things of just observing our world, and every now and then, I hate to say it, going online and shooting a bunch of people in this wild, war video game. But, we all have something like that. So I would say, okay, so the other question was, if I was going to be a character, my Lord.
No, if you were going to choose somebody to spend the day with.
Oh, to choose someone to spend
that could be a good question too. If you want to be a character. I like that too. So
I actually would, I'd like to choose a character thing to hang out with.
Choose, yeah.
It from a sensible perspective, a part of me would want to hang out with somebody like Nikola Tesla. He would be a person. But,
I would love that too.
But like the kid in me would probably want to hang out with, either maybe somebody like Doctor Who that can take me through time, or maybe even that guy Doctor Strange from the Avengers movies, because he also was like I think he was somewhat of a, they call like the Time Lord. And I think the reason for that being is I really strive to understand and be able to kind of navigate the concept of what we call timeline jumping, and the level to which we are literally capable of switching our vibratory state and literally altering and jumping to another timeline in this life. So, those sorts of characters appeal. Yeah. Those sorts of characters appeal to me.
And I don't know if you know work of my friend Marina Jacobi. She talks about that a lot. Check out.
I am.
Yeah, she's really. Yeah. She talks about the different timelines and everything. But yeah, so I like the question that you did it for yourself. If you can be any character or have like a superpower, special power, what would that be?
Oh, me? If I could have, oh wow. It would definitely be the ability to travel through all space and time, or maybe to be. I think there was one of those X-Men characters, like the guy in the wheelchair, unfortunately, that had that crazy like mental kind of, doctor. See, I'm so bad at that now. I can't remember
Yeah,
what it is.
but I know what you're
I
talking
don't
about.
want to butcher it. Somebody out there knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Those guys probably somebody that can travel through time. I don't know.
That's so cool. But yeah, I really resonate what you're saying. So I'm gonna tell you what I was raised in Poland. My grandmother was Polish. She was very religious. This was my mom's mom. She was in a country. She was the farmer. She's the one who taught me about like the plants and everything. But she was, so on Sunday you were not supposed to use scissors. You were not supposed to play cards. Like, we didn't have tarot cards, but like regular cards. So it was like, I used to go visit her, like sometimes spend like the whole summer with her, and I'm like, it was so boring. Like, what do we do on Sunday? So on Saturday I will make like my own deck of cards, and I will still like play the cards, because she will hide the real cards, but I will have my own. She didn't even know. But that, talking about cards, so I'm really looking forward to. I will definitely take your class about tarot cards.
Oh, cool! So. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. How interesting.
Yeah, but I will, because I'm an artist. I always was creating and doing, and for her, like taking away the scissors, it was like a punishment to me. Like, because I used to cut and like do stuff and glue, and I was like, and she says it's against God. God wouldn't, and I was like, what kind of God will like punish me that I can't be creative and have fun? It's just so strange, I mean, grandma was a good soul, but it's just like all these beliefs that, yeah.
I get you.
So
ancestral programming.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know that's what you work with. So when you have your own triggers on traumas, do you go to someone else to like help you, with your healing, or do you do your own? Or
well, my partner and I, she helps me with a lot of clearing. She also does energy work and stuff on her own. I do almost self-healing pretty much every day at this stage. Whether I need it or not, I would like to say that I'm engaging in that, but I also go, gaps without it, and I experience waves of toxicity. And there's times literally when I have had what I understood to be real, true, negative, energetic attacks. And so there's people that I go to. I have a couple friends. My friend Barbara Buck, who's an intuitive healer, amazingly incredible individual. For those of you guys that are watching, you can literally look her up on Facebook, Barbara Buck, intuitive healer. When I get in trouble, when I don't know what's going on with me, when I'm afraid and I don't know how to stop what's happening, I call people like her. I call people like Eric Rains. Those are the ones that I kind of reach out to, and really because they have been really instrumental in kind of helping my own process as well. But for a lot of us here, we are quite literally going to be called at a certain stage to deal with a wound or a thing that will defy any other healer, any other person, any other process, and it'll be something that is ours and ours alone to deal with. And so each of us will have that. So I think for us it's a combination of self-healing and then knowing when to ask for help, because a lot of healers, I have literally seen this lately, they get toxic, they get weird, they get caught up in really strange things, and I've watched it literally tear people's minds apart because they don't know how to ask for help, and people get caught up in really strange things, and it's a trip. So. And
I see this as a health coach, like sometimes because they so into like spiritual stuff, like they channel, like they. But like they don't take care of their physical body. I'm like, you have to like go for a walk, like release that energy, and especially when you're doing with clients and all these different energies. It's like sometimes it gets attached to you, no matter how many sage stick you clean yourself, yes, or whatever you like it. You have like sometimes you need to like release it, or to like I like to go to the nature, and but like you need sometimes to work with like a specialist to to help you. So and I think asking for help sometimes it's hard. So.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. So do you want to like have something like a collective at the end for us, for the viewers? I don't know. Do you want to like pull a card, collective card? Do you want to share like your so we know that you have the tarot reading in September. Is there any other events that you're doing that people can look it up? What else are you doing? Yes.
So I have a couple things coming up. Not only this Sunday, I'm doing a free, what I call a energy body template clearing, as we kind of go through this 3D, 4D, 5D shifting. A lot of us encounter, you know, what we call ascension symptoms, changes in the body, buildup of energies, emotions, certain things in the body that will need to be released along that journey so that we can kind of optimize our energy fields. And so I'm doing a free, it's like a presentation and a group healing this Sunday, the 28th. And so people can still sign up for that. Outside of that, a really awesome opportunity.
But where do they sign up for that?
Oh, they can go to my website.
Oh, on your website, okay.
RememberYourMission.com. It's on the front page. It's called Body Template Clearing and Activation, I think, and that's this Sunday, July 28th. And that's totally free, you guys. All you got to do is sign up. I'll probably end up posting the Zoom link on Facebook as well, because it's just kind of like a free thing for everyone that wants to join in. Additionally, I will be at Dimensions of Disclosure, incredible disclosure conference happening August 23rd through 25th in Ventura County out here in California. In my opinion, I believe it is the most important disclosure and consciousness raising event of entire 2019. And so I'll be doing a very special, like a workshop there in which every single person that comes to this workshop at DOD is not only going to be experiencing what we call this multi-dimensional healing, in which we're going to go through a bit of a group clean, but what we're actually going to be doing is programming, and everyone receives quite literally this thing. It's a version of a time crystal, as odd as that may sound. What we're going to be doing is literally crystallizing a moment in time, a version of you, and assisting ourselves in stepping into a new timeline. So for the first time ever at a conference event like this, I'm literally doing a group timeline jumping event in which every single person that attends this free workshop at this event gets to take part in this. So it's an incredible opportunity. Alongside that, I have the tarot course in September, and yeah, people can reach out to me for private sessions, readings, energy work through my website as well. But we're gonna draw a card for everyone here that's watching. And I didn't get to see any of the comments. I don't know what anyone's been saying, so I got no idea what's going on in the background. But we're just gonna draw a card, just looking at the collective energy and understanding the momentum of this meeting here today and the energy shared. We're just asking for, you know, anything we need to be made aware of going forward. What do we need to know? Oh, interesting. This may be a time in a lot of people's life, and I'm just going to kind of confirm this before I say something crazy to everybody here. It may be time to really let go of those old structures around us. And for everyone, that's already painfully obvious. But when we talk about letting go of the old and bringing in the new, when we talk about shifting into that new Earth timeline, when we talk about that timeline bifurcation by which that old kind of lower dimensional energy falls away and we step into this 4D, 5D reality, in order for that to happen for a lot of us to go through that ascension process, we have to come through moments like this, the tower, the collapse of structure, the collapse of the old ways, the collapse of the patriarchy. Well, I shouldn't say patriarchy. What the tower is specifically is something that was designed and destined to fail. So when the tower shows up on a collective level, we are not only understanding that, you know, something around us is crumbling, you know, whatever that is, the structure of the old world, but, you know, the tower is also, for those of you guys who don't know, a release from bondage and all that it implies. So the tower can be an incredibly liberating moment, especially when we understand that the world we're in, or whatever this represents for people, this tower, you guys, it's burning and falling down, that's usually a collapse of a certain thing in our life. And, you know, for most people, they'll see a tower and be like, oh no, that's a bad thing. And, you know, in sort of classical tarot it is, but the tower tells you why something collapses. And that's the foundation of who and what a lot of us were that we're shedding right now. The foundation was weak and it will need to crumble so that something new can be built in its place. And we ask, what is that something new? What does that mean? You know, what is it that we're building on a collective level? And this will be a confirmation of what everyone knows. But first off, inner child healing, self-realization, planting the seeds for new growth, new opportunity, existential growth. That's the Six of Cups. This is a healing moment in which there's an exchange that occurs, a blossoming of the heart. So for a lot of us, this will be once again about healing our traumas. And then sort of lastly, the Emperor, which shows up. A very interesting and powerful individual. The Emperor needs to be in total sovereignty, total like control. He'll need to have, he'll need to be in charge of his kingdom. And so in my opinion, in approaching this from like a collective level, that Emperor tells us to be sovereign, tells us to be whole, it tells us to check our energy, to be aware of what's affecting us. And in my opinion, those are pretty good things to have as long as we're aware of what's happening. So I hope that makes sense.
No, this is awesome. I think this is an awesome collective reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything specific, like, I don't want to call names, but
that's
few
okay.
things came to my mind, when
please.
No, I don't want to get into like politics.
Talk later. We can talk later.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so it's just, sometimes people, I don't want to start a war, but it's just interesting what you said. Cool. So this is this was such a pleasure, talking to you. Maybe I will have you like in, a few weeks again, because I think people really like, the cards. Oh yeah, and Vicki said, wow, sounds great. I wish I lived over there. I guess she means for the event that you're going, because
oh yeah, that is over here.
Because that's in California, yeah. So
they do have a live stream, but I'm not on the live stream. So maybe if enough people ask, like the people that are putting it together, they'll like put me in the live stream area. I'm on the side in the back, but
okay.
I will still be there though. But yeah.
Oh, but that's awesome. So, yeah. Anything else we should say at the end? Any like a tip or something?
I would say if there's anything that I would give to people at this stage of your life is really, check in with your emotions, check in with how you're feeling. It's really time for us to begin to trust ourselves on a individual level, to begin to understand. If there's anything you can take away from this, it is the need to truly understand what your frequency is, what you feel like, your energy versus another person's, versus your mates or your husband's or your friends or your family. Right now, like that, the Emperor card that we saw, self-sovereignty and awareness of our energy is paramount. And so if there's anything I give to people is really detox your body from heavy metals, trust yourself, and just like continue to make bold moves in your life. We came here for a reason. So
awesome. And no attachment, and be very I will say this to myself, assertive, because sometimes I pick up, because being an empath, I can pick up like people's energy, and so I have to like keep the gentle boundaries around me. But that's for me. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm sure like if you're an empath, I'm working on that. Yeah. So thank you so much. So this was such a pleasure. I will post this on my YouTube and my website. And yeah, if you have any specific questions, you can contact Matthew directly for readings, for entity clearing, and all these different things that he offers, wonderful things. And check out his tarot workshop. I'll be joining for sure. So thank you so much. Good night, everyone, and I'll be doing more interviews, so stay tuned. And for yummy recipes, visit my website, olenkoskitchen.com. So good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you for joining. Bye. Bye.